Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and I just finished watching Arrested Development Season 5 on Netflix. This video isn't about that, and don't worry, there won't be any spoilers, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Netflix's new strategy in releasing some shows in two parts. Arrested Development isn't the first show to do this, but I think it is one of the first. It's certainly the first that I saw, the one that I watch. I believe they did this with Full House as well. Sorry, Fuller House. And I wanted to kind of talk about the pros and cons of this strategy, how it weighs against Netflix's original strategy of just releasing everything all up front, and how that compares to traditional strategy of releasing something a week at a time, or if you're Cartoon Network releasing things in one day, once a day for a week, and then going months and months without any new episodes. Steven Universe. So let me just say that in regards to Netflix's original strategy, by all accounts, it seems like something that shouldn't work or that wouldn't work or that just seems kind of crazy, right? It takes a long time to make a season of a TV show. It can take pretty much a year. And to just burn through all of those episodes, where it might be 10 episodes, 13, 12, might be 15, might be 22 episodes, might be 52 episodes in a season, to although I don't think any Netflix show has had 52 episodes in the season. To burn through all of those episodes at once seems a bit extreme, right? It seems like you just wasted all that work that you did for just kind of one initial payoff. And in a way, that's kind of true. One of the difficult things I would have to say is in keeping certain shows relevant over a long period of time. Because shows that air weekly, they continuously get buzz, right? Media might promote that there's a special guest star in next week's episode. People talk about individual episodes as they go on, so it's a continuing conversation. Whereas with a show that's released all at the same time, you don't know when people are going to be watching this show. Sure, there's going to be a lot of diehard fans that are going to watch something on day one when it's at least an existing show, but when it's either a new show or the other people that are watching these shows that aren't diehard fans, you don't know. They could be watching it a few weeks after it comes out on Netflix, a few months after, a few years after. There's not really like a continuous frame of time that most people are going to consume this media. The initial run is, midnight Western time, just like that's it until enough time is allotted that you could theoretically watch all the episodes in full. That's like the initial runtime, but for a lot of people it's basically like the first week that it's out. And then basically the discussion goes away. Now Netflix kind of mitigates this by having a front page and by continuously suggesting things to people in various ways across various different versions of Netflix that exist on all different platforms. And you'll see them promote their original series very heavily everywhere. So that's kind of one way to keep things always in someone's spotlight. You're always being targeted with this. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the news. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that people are talking about online. It's just something that Netflix will continuously show you until eventually you say, what the heck, I'll try it. But I do think that you do kind of lose something when you don't have like a period of discussion. And I think that that's kind of where this whole strategy of splitting a show in half can really come in handy. If you do a mystery or you do a cliffhanger, you give people a period of time in the middle of the season to talk about what's going to happen, to predict it, to generate buzz, to talk about how, X is going to happen in the next half season. You can do new trailers. You could even recut in minor ways, and depending on the show, like Arrested Development is prime for this because you could always add new narration and always re-edit scenes just a little bit. But yeah, you can tweak things between the first half of the season and the second half based upon fan response. So that is kind of the benefit, is that you have breathing room. You have more time for the show to be relevant. You give fans more time to kind of space it out, but yet you also have the whole marathon aspect of it, because the reason why the Netflix formula works in the first place of releasing everything all at once is because, unlike a TV show where you have to wait weeks and weeks, if you're on the fence about something, If you see a pilot episode and you're like, okay, that was entertaining. I'm not sure I'm going to remember to tune in next week. That is a totally different ball game than on Netflix, where you see a pilot episode and you're not sure about it. Boom, the next episode's already playing. Before you've even had a chance to think about, is this something I really want to continue watching? That next episode is playing on your screen, and that's where marathon appeal definitely comes in handy. But when you have shows that are, I mean, honestly, even anything above a 10 episode season, you have at least 5 episodes to marathon. In the case of Arrested Development, it was 8. And while that's not a ton of episodes, that's about 4-ish hours of content. That's a lot. That's enough to get you immersed. And I think that's another thing that the Netflix formula works for, is getting you hooked on something, getting you immersed. It's not just, hey, am I going to tune in next week for the second episode? This is a show that I can sit down and binge and obsess about and learn everything I can about this show. It's something that I can binge again next week if I want to, and really absorb everything into my head. And I think that that's a really good thing for people who want to, get immersed in those shows. And those people are always going to be good advocates for the show when it comes to other people, talking about them online or what have you. Doing it where you split up the season gives people enough to immerse themselves in without getting entirely overwhelmed. Because if you have a lot of episodes in a season, yes, you can immerse yourself, but you also end up with fatigue if you try to watch them all at the same time. So if you have a show that's like 20 episodes a season, even something like 16 episodes a season, it kind of behooves you to split that up into 2 parts anyway, because it's unlikely that anyone's going to be watching all the way through at once. And if they are, they might be tired by the end of it, or they might fall asleep, or they might have a negative opinion on it at the end because they rushed through it themselves. I definitely although I do like season 4 of Arrested Development, I think releasing it when it did, and Netflix releases things at 3 a.m. my time, which is midnight over on the West Coast, it kind of makes me want to watch things at 3 a.m. and try to marathon them, and that's just a terrible recipe that's always going to lead to a little bit of disappointment and a little bit of forcing you to rewatch or try to re-remember. So honestly, I think that that's kind of where the positives are, in that it is a kind of a nice halfway mix, if you will, between a traditional season of a TV show where you have more time for things to remain in the public consciousness, more time for people to speculate and talk about and promote the show while it's still going on, instead of it basically being over as soon as it launches, compared to a regularly broadcast TV show over the course of a few weeks. You get that, but then also at the same time, you still get the Netflix binge in there. You still get people able to absorb it all, able to watch episode 2 before they even decide if they want if they liked episode 1 and want to watch more of it. The downsides that I could see in the 2-part strategy are basically certain shows kind of require you to get the full season, and I feel like Arrested Development's kind of a bad example to do this split with, because Arrested Development is a show, especially when they've done these Netflix seasons, where it really, really helps to watch the full season and then watch it again to fully get everything, and only have basically half the story at this point. It's kind of even hard to judge what I've seen. I definitely like some of it, and I can definitely see some problems, but it's hard to even know what's a plot hole or what's bad pacing when I don't know what's going to come next. So I feel like certain shows are going to be better for this than others, and I also feel like one of the downsides to this is that the show really, really has to give you a clear midway point to do this at, because if you end it on what seems like just another episode, it really feels it's gonna feel anticlimactic. Basically, you're gonna watch that, you're gonna binge it, especially if it's in a shorter episode order. You're gonna binge it all, and then you're gonna be like, I don't know how I feel about that, because it didn't leave you with a strong impression, because that wasn't the season-ending cliffhanger or the season-ending everything concludes. It doesn't have a sense of finality, and that's kind of how I felt about Arrested Development's ending there, where it definitely did feel like a midpoint of sorts, but it didn't feel like it really strongly hit on enough cliffhangers for me to be like, yes, this was a clearly intentioned like mid-season break. It feels like it was just kind of a happy coincidence that Netflix decided to do this sort of splitting up with the fact that some kind of major events happen in that episode. It doesn't feel finite in any way. In a like, this is all the episodes I'm going to get for right now. It doesn't even feel like it necessarily does a great job of teasing what's to come, like a mid-season break basically should. So yeah, there's definitely disappointments that can come if the show is not properly made in that way. But I think that if you were to design the season where there is kind of this midpoint break, which a lot of traditional shows do because there is a mid-season break, usually in December and parts of January, where the show will air from September to early December and then come back in maybe January or February and run until the summer. There is precedent for that in a traditional structure there. But yeah, I think there's pros and cons here. I think that splitting it up in half is I think the best. I don't think I really want Netflix to split it up even more than that, unless there's a lot of episodes. I mean, look, if you continuously give me like 8 episodes every real life season for every season of your show, I mean, I'd be okay with that, assuming it's a good show. But yeah, I mean, the only other thing that there is to talk about negatively is that I think that some people might be just used to the next Netflix formula and might feel kind of robbed in regards to they feel like they're only getting half the story at a time, and they feel like Netflix is, basically, I guess it's kind of entitlement because Netflix has done things a certain way. And even though I think it's totally fair to say, look, they put a lot of time and work into a season, and to just burn it all in one day is kind of nuts, even if that's how it's been done for a while. People are still going to be kind of averse to that change, I think. They're going to feel like they expected it to be a full season, and it really wasn't. But I mean, hey, if nothing else, at least Netflix ensures that they're going to get another month of subscription out of people if they really, really want to see Arrested Development or any other Netflix original. They want to see the ending. They want to see the second part. So you gotta subscribe for 2 months. So let's see if this works out for Netflix. I definitely welcome it as long as they plan the shows in advance and they make sure they kind of hit a certain point in that mid-season there, where mid-season finale, where it does feel like it's something that I want to come back to really badly, instead of just ending on a regular episode where I'm like, okay, well, I don't feel like I have closure. I don't feel like I have teasers. I just kind of feel a little empty, and maybe I don't know if I want to come back for more. But yeah, what do you guys think if you've seen how Netflix has been splitting up some of their shows recently? I know Kimmy Schmidt coming up is going to also have this 2-part split, and it's going to be the last season, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And with that, Pie Guy Rules out.